time for everyone to get the clap.
We're so official.
Welcome to our Film Fathers podcast, the definitive podcast about fatherhood, film, and fatherhood in film. This is Jelani, and with me as always are a guy checked into room 21 and a guy checked into room 304, Martin and Brady.
Memory can change the shape of a room. It can change the color of a car, and memories can be distorted. They're just an interpretation. They're not a record, and they're irrelevant if you have the facts.
I have to believe in a world outside my own mind. I have to believe that my actions still have meaning, even if I can't remember them. I have to believe that when my eyes are closed, the world's still there. Do I believe the world's still there? Is it still out there? Yeah. We all need mirrors to remind ourselves who we are. I'm no different.
This week, we're diving into Memento, the film that put Christopher Nolan on the map and flipped the concept of memory and narrative on its head. The earliest work of one of the greatest filmmakers of our generation, told in a fragmented, non-linear structure that mirrors the experience of its protagonist, it's more than just a mystery. It's a psychological puzzle about identity, revenge, and the way we construct our own realities. The disjointed delivery, alternating color and black and white presentation enhances the mystery and intrigue of a man searching for vengeance. Was this when you started to take notice of Nolan and thinking, hey, this guy may be onto something?
Yep.
I'd say that's probably an accurate description for a lot of people, the majority of people.
Yeah, I went back and watched you. I remember at one point when we were talking about Nolan in a different movie, you're like, you're never going to guess his first movie or talking. I was like, yeah, Following. I'm like, after I watched Memento, I went back and watched like an old black and white movie they did, or his first real movie, Following. But this was definitely the one that I remember. I was like, this guy's a genius. like it was so good.
I don't know what I thought he was, but it was, when I first saw Memento, I was like, what was that? Like, I don't even comprehend what I just watched.
So, Brady, do you remember the show Rubicon?
Yeah, dude. Only you and I watched it.
Yeah, you guys have talked about it on the pod a few times.
It was on AMC.
One of the things that we had, on AMC, never really existed. I think we might have been. It's a Mandela effect. Like
right.
Only Brady and I remember it. But one of the things that we thought about, or we used to talk about, was like the show made your head hurt, like after you watched it, because your brain was actually doing something. And when I first saw Memento, I felt the exact same way. Like, what did I just watch, and how did it all come together? What? And I loved it. I love when a film does that to you. Like, it makes you think, and it makes you actually use your brain. I do like movies that you just get to shut your brain off and not think about things, but this one was so much fun. So much fun.
I think it's probably the 5th time I've seen it, maybe, and it's still every time, you think you got every little detail, but I feel like you pick something else up, or you just forget like little things. It's not super long. That's the great thing about it. So it's also intriguing that way. And I also watched it a different way this time, and I watched it one way before. There is like a way to, if you go on YouTube, somebody has supercut it all in chronological order, which is interesting to watch too, because it's just sequential order, and it's just an interesting way to do it, because then you just see how brilliant it is when it's not done that way, and how certain things are much more interesting when it's cut in the way that they cut it. Yeah.
So it was actually, I saw it was on the limited edition DVD. It was an Easter egg that they had the chronological order of the movie you could watch. It was, even the first couple scenes were regularly cut. They were not reversed. But the version, it's like apparently really hard to find, which was always for those of us that watched and collected and had a bunch of DVDs. I know I went down an Easter egg rabbit hole at one point, like finding all the Easter eggs that I had on the movies that I had, and not ever understanding how anyone ever found it to begin with. Some of them were so hidden, and I assume this one said the user had to answer several questions and solve a puzzle on the DVD and forward, reverse, and chapter skip capabilities were disabled. But there was that full version, which, like you said, is now on YouTube and it's out there, which I've never watched. And when I saw that, I was like, God, I kind of wish I had the time to do that. It would have been an interesting, way to
watch it,
to see both of them.
Because they put all the black and white stuff. That's him talking on the phone and talking about Sammy Jankis. That's all in the beginning. Because like if you're looking at it chronologically, that's when he's just in the one of the hotel rooms, giving himself the tattoo and talking on the phone right before he's about to go and kill Jimmy Grants, right? Which is where the movie starts. But then it's all kind of so yeah, it's I don't know. It still makes your head hurt when you think about it.
Is there a version where it's all black and white? I feel like that exists somewhere too, and you can't decipher what is the past and what is the present. Makes it a little bit harder to understand when they're jumping back and forth. But I wouldn't think so.
I wouldn't think so. I know I saw a note about the chronology, and it said like when numbering the scenes chronologically and then sorting how they appear in the film, the pattern is actually really clear. Because the letters A through V would represent color scenes, and numbers would represent black and white scenes. And they appear in the film from like the black and white 1 to 22,
right?
And then the colors are actually backwards,
right.
V to A,
right.
But staggered, number, letter. So it's like the numbers are building and the letters are going backwards, and all in a row. So it's completely alternating and completely correlated. So like 22A, like they all get to the same point. So I wouldn't think there's a version that would be in black and white only. I mean, maybe there is, and I'm wrong, but I think the whole design is set up to have both of those things, going in different directions.
Is this just his precursor to Tenet, kind of like the trial run? I wanted to see if it would work.
Well, so it was a story written by his brother, Jonathan Nolan. Which, fun fact, I learned something about that. Like it was Jonathan Nolan's screenplay, but the screenplay is still considered original as opposed to adapted because Jonathan's story was never published until after the film was completed. So I thought that was interesting. I'm like, maybe I never thought too deep about it, but just reading that, I was like, oh, that's really interesting. Like that wouldn't, like even in the very, I mean, they make it very clear in the beginning of the movie, like in the credits, opening credits, it's like based off a Jonathan Nolan like short story. So in and of itself, I would see that and be like, okay, it's adapted. Like that's fine. Not a big deal either way, but like apparently just because of the actual publishing, but they said like they wrote it like on a car ride together. Like they were essentially talking it all out on a car ride, and like that was how it all got done. Never actually published, but obviously Christopher Nolan had intimate knowledge of the whole thing, and would presume his brother's blessing. And I don't know. I just found that very interesting, and just something that like goes into the movie aspect or movie making aspect that I guess I never really fully comprehended.
Just two brilliant dudes taking a car ride, being like, it would be really cool. We do a movie. Yeah, but
I can tell you, there's no way I could even hear that out loud and comprehend it, let alone, to the point of like, we should make a movie and do this. I know I've made like one movie, but I'm gonna make this movie, and it's gonna be insane.
Yeah, just the concepts that these two have come up with are just like, wait, what? How are you thinking this out? Like, and like you said, Martin, just sitting around, if they're just, what if we did it backwards? What? Well, we'll tell half of the movie forwards, and then we'll tell the other half backwards, and then we'll interlace it, and we'll flip it, and we'll throw these things back and forth. I think it's just unbelievable, like how you thought through this. And, last couple of weeks, or we previously talked about Shutter Island and having twists at the end, right? And I felt like this kind of set off the Nolan, I'm going to throw a twist for you. And he does it so well in this movie and then in subsequent films like Inception and The Prestige, and just continues to pull these like, hey, guess what? You thought you knew and you thought you understood, but you have no idea what I'm thinking about, or what my brother has in his brain, and just buckle up because I'm taking you for a ride.
Yeah, and you mentioned like, is this a precursor to Tenet? And like, maybe not the whole thing, but yeah, the idea of playing backwards and the beginning of the movie, right? You see everything moving backwards, to the gun coming, the bullet coming into the gun.
It's such
and
an
that
amazing
kind of stuff.
scene.
Yeah, very very cool scene, right? To do it that way, because you don't realize it's going backwards until a little bit later or whatever, but yes, I think they take that and they're like, yeah, what if we made a whole movie around this concept about reversing entropy and all that stuff?
About
so yeah, it's
time
just
being a flat
wild.
circle.
Yeah, right.
Last week we did Shutter Island, and there was I was reading like that title was an anagram of truth and lies, and I think we were kind of enamored with the idea that like this movie also, both of which are on a milestone anniversary, with Shutter Island being 15 years and Memento going on 25, which, by the way, even hearing that out loud is kind of like alarming.
Makes you feel old.
We were all in college when this happened, when this movie came out, but there is so much, and I feel like that truth and lies dynamic really plays well with both those movies. Obviously, this is nothing but you as the viewer trying to figure out what the hell is going on, and even to the point that it feels like it's some of those like those scenes are quick and they're jumping, and you're like, is that? Did I just jump to a new scene? Am I in the same scene? And like you're rehashing, you're blurring those lines a lot over and over again, and yeah, it's just crazy how well they seemingly did that throughout to make a movie that has a somewhat simple storyline, I think, just exponentially more interesting.
Well, I think what's interesting about both of these movies and watching them and how they do kind of connect is the fact that both the protagonists, right, the narrators, the main characters, are lying to them. They're choosing to actively lie to themselves because they can't deal with the trauma of what happened in their lives, right? And that's like the big reveal in both the movies, that they're not willing to face what happened, so they just want to keep chasing some type of thing that's making a puzzle, living inside a puzzle that they can never solve. And in that kind of a run, as like I said, I mentioned I watched Memento a bunch. I've seen it a few times now. I don't think that it's self-consistent in the sense that every time he resets, he would have to like read every tattoo to know where he is, and I feel like, what I mean. Right?
My note was there has to be, like, he talks about how the Sammy Jankis, he's like, oh, he didn't do it right. He left himself a ton of notes and he got confused. There's a middle ground. There's got to be between, leaving yourself too many notes and leaving yourself like 7 tattoos, and that's it. Like, and then he does have notes, but like he's trying to. I'm like, there's got to be a better way than what he was doing to kind of communicate in order to keep himself appraised of what like is actually going on, and to keep himself like up to date. It would be borderline impossible, I think, to start from complete scratch and then subtly learn you have tattoos at some point through the day. Like, it just, all of that there's some loose loose threads.
That's all I'm saying.
Sure.
Like, when it said like he is the one you're looking for, kill. I mean, I guess that would work. Like he probably somewhere along the lines would trust his own note that says kill him. So I guess that does work in that sense. He wouldn't need to be reminded that it was John G and all that kind of stuff.
I guess my question then would be, how long does it take for an idea or something you've experienced to set into that long-term memory, right? So I'm thinking about, like you said, Martin, when he goes to Carrie Ann Moss's house and he's sitting on the couch, and she's like yelling at him, and then she leaves, knowing that he'll reset and forget.
Yeah.
But it's like he recognizes her when she comes in. He doesn't question, like, who are you? Where am I? Like, it's not like an Alzheimer's situation where he's, like, completely lost.
Yeah, I think
like,
that's a miss relative to the story.
Right.
Well,
Because I think he should forget. That's why waking up in the hotel room every time he does it. He's like, okay, I'm in a hotel room. Where am I? What hotel am I in? I don't know where I'm in. Like, so, like, I would say in his argument, when he loses it, that when he loses time, so to speak, it should be, who the hell is this?
Well, but he explained that a little bit, because he does say it's like that's why I thought Sammy was kind of faking it or whatever. Yeah, because it's like when somebody smiles at you, you just kind of smile back. You try to just pretend like you know them. So like when she walks in, obviously knowing him and saying, "Dad beat the shit out of me," he's just like, okay, well, clearly I know who you are. You're talking to me like you know me, so I'm just going to act as if, just to kind of get that pat on the head.
That's supposedly explainable, yeah.
But every time he says John G killed my wife, it's like, you don't know that. You didn't read that tattoo in the last 5 minutes. You know, that's kind of what I mean. Or that
there's some looseness to it for sure.
Yeah,
but I don't think it takes away from.
It doesn't. It doesn't take away. Yeah, you got to still write the movie.
Well, to that point though, right? Because remember, he had that tattooed onto his chest backwards, so every time he walked into
one
mirror,
particular tattoo was backwards.
The other ones were on his thigh.
The John G.
The rest of them, I know, but say the other ones were all you could read.
Right, yeah.
So in and of itself, it's kind of weird that you just do one backwards.
Maybe it was the first one. And
your
the
whole
first
chest.
one, it was, and that's the most important one, and it was the first tattoo that he had. So it looked kind of homemade, and and he decided to do it that way on his chest, and it makes for a really good movie. It makes for a really dramatic, right?
Don't get you're not wrong about that.
Yeah,
but to that point, right? That's the conditioning, right? So every time he wakes up and he sees himself in the mirror, or anytime he goes to a mirror and his shirt's open, he sees the John G. So if he sees it enough, is that conditioning that he talked about, where that sits into the long-term memory, not the short-term? So it always stays with him.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Could be. Could be. According to Inside Out, your long-term memories happen when you dream. You know the movie Inside Out? Never mind.
Yeah, no, we got you. Just letting you tell.
I thought you were reading some journals, scientific journals.
No, but I do think people do say that there is in order for it to really move into a long-term memory, you do have to like sort through it at night in your dreams, and then it kind of really gets into it. That's why you don't remember the details of a year ago. But there are people that have that like they could remember 5 years ago like it was yesterday, which is kind of crazy. Like you can remember every single detail, like what you ate yesterday. You could do that for every single day of your life. Like that seems like a lot of memory to have.
It would not be fair to do
too much memory.
The movie Pyramid against those people. I saw there was a note mentioning that there was a website for this movie at the time. It was essentially Memento spelled backwards.com, so OTNEMEM.com, created by Jonathan Nolan, and the main menu was in the form of a newspaper article that described a manhunt for Leonard, and after a cleaning crew discovered like a bunch of suspicious stuff in the hotel room at the Discount Inn with like his gun, the file, like Polaroid pictures, including one of like Teddy's body, which no one could like identify or locate. And it also mentioned that he was reported missing from a psychiatric facility 2 years prior. And clicking certain words in the article revealed notes about everything that was going on, which one is a pretty fucking sweet thing to provide.
Early days of the internet, baby.
Well, and to provide that type of stuff for the fans, right? Like we talk about this stuff offline about like Severance and other things that like chats and things that like feed the narrative and the people that are geeked out about that are like sucked into the stuff. And I just love that like that existed. And also, it does kind of provide, from the writer himself, a little bit of, I think, specific accuracy to maybe if there was any ambiguity for people at along the way or at the end, that it is like, no, like he is clearly well, I don't want to say a bad guy, but kind of the about where he
pretty
fell
shitty
in the
person.
grand scheme.
Leonard's a pretty bad dude. I kind of remember that. Like, I don't know that I went to that site, but there's something when you said all that stuff. I'm like, I feel like I remember seeing that website back in the day. I don't know.
That checks out. I feel like you would have went there.
Yeah, it feels like it doesn't seem that far off, and there's something familiar about it. Like, I feel like I remember navigating that, which is just, it seems, it fits with that time period. There's all kinds of like interesting movie promotions, I feel like, going on in the early 2000s. Kind of miss that stuff. Now it's all like home ads and homepage takeovers, not just like websites for stuff.
Another little tidbit I thought you guys would appreciate was that Teddy's phone number on his Polaroid, 555-0134. That would be the exact same phone number as Marla Singer in Fight Club.
Nice.
Really?
Yeah, little correlation on a couple movies. And who knows, right? Like, I think you get the 555s, you get random numbers. It
right.
could be completely
KL5.
random, could be might not be, but
well, now that's going in our movie. If we ever need a phone number, we're definitely using that one.
100%.
Continue the cinematic journey.
Did you guys ever call a 555 number?
I don't know. What do you mean? No, maybe. Do they not exist?
It would work, right?
Yeah, it goes to either the operator or information.
Sounds exciting.
I remember seeing one on like a Bugs Bunny cartoon, and I dialed it one time, and I was like, "Huh, doesn't really go anywhere." So it's just funny because
so that's why they do that,
Yeah.
eh?
Yeah.
you just all 555 numbers go.
I think I knew it was fake.
the operator.
So
Now I don't like it.
Never tried it.
I feel like they should use real numbers from now on and just fuck with people.
Martin,
Sorry, before you move off of that point, there's we just went and saw the Dogman movie, and
let me guess.
there's
They use a 555 number?
No, they use an actual number, and it's there's a scene where they talk about like life not being fair, and then one of the characters gives the chief a card that has the number on it, and the chief calls it, and it's just somebody that says life's not fair, and then like hangs up, and they use an actual number, and if you call the actual number, that's what you get. Somebody just on the other end says life's not fair.
How do you know that?
And then just hangs up.
That's great.
Yeah.
How do you know that?
We had a friend call it.
How was the Dogman movie?
I also fell asleep in that.
Oh, my God.
Man's
I'm going to assume not
long
because
for
of the
movies.
movie, and just because you, like me, you got into a dark theater, you're underslept, and you're just like, I'm out.
It was a dark theater. The chairs were heated and they reclined, and it was a recipe for disaster.
See ya. Yeah, what are you going to do?
Let's go see The Monkey this weekend. I bet you won't fall asleep during that.
Bet. Hold my whiskey.
Nice.
That part doesn't help either. Martin, did you do any deep dive, or were you curious about the book that Leonard's wife is reading? The coverless book?
Yeah, what is it?
Oh, disappointed in you. I would have thought you would have already tried to read it.
I would have if there was a title on it or something, but I don't remember seeing it.
So I think the page is available. So according to the note I found, the book that the wife is reading, which begins 2 years have gone by since I finished the long story, has to be Claudius the God by Robert Graves. And that is the book that she is obsessed with.
Not familiar with that one.
It must be terrible then.
I must be amazing if Nolan's giving it a shout out. You know,
I know.
The Nolan brothers.
And looks big. It's long, coverless. It must be. She loves it over and over again, even knowing what's going to happen. So anyway, there you go. There's a carrot for you.
Yeah, I like that. All right, thanks.
I thought
Thanks
you
for
might.
the tip.
I thought you might.
question for you guys. Did you recognize Sammy Jankis' wife, the actress who played her?
Kind of, but I just kind of assumed it was from this.
Yeah, I was trying to place her the whole time I was watching this, and I could not.
Did you
I don't know
look
her,
her up?
but Sammy Jankis.
Oh, yeah, him for sure.
What's he? He's one of the
Groundhog
guys.
Day.
Yeah.
Yeah, Steven Tobolowsky.
Yeah. He's
like the poster child for character.
He's that guy
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking up
100%.
Harriet.
Wasn't he in Sneakers too? Wasn't he the guy that had to get
Yeah.
to say the word? Yeah.
My voice is my passport.
That's what I was thinking.
Ooh, Johnny, there's a chance I know what you could know her from. So she is in. Her known fours are Licorice Pizza, recently, Phantom Thread, Magazine Dreams, and this is where I think maybe, because I don't know where you are watching this, she's in 10 episodes of The Agency from last year.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you right now, that's not how I know her.
Okay. Well.
I know her from Frasier.
Oh, well, that's
She's
exciting.
Frasier's agent.
Did you watch all of Frasier?
You're the one.
I watched a lot of it.
By the way, she was in one episode of Frasier.
No way.
That's what it
No,
said.
she was in one episode of the reboot.
Oh, okay.
What's the reboot?
She's
There's a reboot of Frasier?
Yeah.
What?
Again, CBS just likes to throw anything out there. If it's been done before, CBS is like, we can
All
do
right,
it
so
again.
just to be clear, she was in
SWAT,
11 episodes
Magnum
of the
PI.
actual show.
Okay.
So
I was
should-
going to say, I can't believe that it would just be one from.
Well, 11's not a lot
Jelani
either,
says.
but yeah.
She's a very annoying character, so
Um,
kind of.
she's in a ton of shows.
Yeah, big character actor on television.
Harriet Sansom Harris.
28 episodes
Now
of Desperate Housewives. Jelani's going to act like he didn't see.
But yeah, that was so. The other thing that was funny about this is, as you're watching, you see a couple of people. The cast it's not a huge cast, and it's not a widely known cast, but it's a couple of people that have worked with Nolan later on, which I didn't realize. Thomas Lennon works with him in this, and then he's also in The Dark Knight Rises as the Doctor
Oh,
that Bruce Wayne sees.
yeah.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, he's the one that tells him his knee's all torn up and he shouldn't do anything. And then Mark Boone Jr. is
Yeah, he's
the
definitely
cop,
been
one
around.
of the dirty cops in Batman Begins.
Yeah. It's funny how people like to use people over and over again. I saw where Guy Pearce said he was almost in Batman, The Dark Knight, and that franchise in another movie or two. But there was apparently some exec told his agent, you'll never be in another one. Because he just was not a fan. But you see it with him, obviously, with Michael Caine, Cillian Murphy.
Yep.
So going back to The Well and knowing people you know and like, it's almost I almost am surprised that Carrie Ann Moss didn't become a regular female for him, because I thought she was pretty good in a short time span in this movie.
Yeah, I think she did a good job too. Now, this was the question that I had after she sends him to get Dodd, or sends him to go kill Dodd. Was that just because she was pissed that he killed Jimmy?
Yeah, I kind of wondered that too. It feels like she handled the murder of her boyfriend too well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't.
There is that. Maybe
really
she
get it.
didn't really, I mean, she obviously
He
knew
had
he was
her.
probably
He had
kind
his
of a
car
scum.
and clothes.
Right. So she knew.
So
that's how
there's
she
no
knew.
fucking doubt.
Right. I'm thinking that she's not, she's clearly not a very ethical, moral person herself. So I think she kind of knew what she's getting into with Jimmy. She knew he dealt drugs. She probably dealt them with him. So she was just.
Yeah, it just felt to me like there was probably a little bit of a connection there, and she went immediately to you could stay here.
Right. Well, Jimmy's dead. So, yeah, you don't look too bad with your shirt off. So, yeah, stay here.
Yeah,
And you don't remember shit. So, I could use you. Like
yeah,
she said, I'm
and
going
I liked
to use
that
you.
aspect of it. I liked the manipulation that she used to go outside and come back, outright telling him to his face, you're taking all the pens ahead of time,
Yeah.
And
yeah.
no,
And
like,
I
liked
the loogie scene before that.
I liked that.
It's all great.
I also thought it was really weird that Joey Pants was always around, but they never really fucking like dialed in on that. Like he was just like in his car or like jumping onto the car. Or, like he just was always around.
Yeah, I mean, and he did a really piss poor job of. I mean, they did a good job of like explaining that away. Like every time he thought he got Leonard to write something down, he would cross it out because he says he doesn't know that he had "don't believe his lies" on Teddy's picture.
And he wrote in cursive, which is different. He said, "Trust the handwriting." I learned to trust my handwriting.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So they did okay, but still, like he probably could have seen. He probably should have seen it coming a little bit. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I actually think Joey Pants was well cast for that reason.
Yeah,
he kind of could be believable on both sides of that coin.
Yeah, a little schmucky, and he also knew what he was doing was very illegal. So yeah, it definitely worked. I'm knitting the smallest of, or picking the smallest of knits here. And again, just because I've seen it so many times, but like it's pretty damn near flawless and entertaining for a movie of like this, and just to come out of nowhere. It blew me away the first time, and still is blowing me away 25 years later, and just to see what Nolan's done, because I do remember thinking like, is this just like a flash in a there's so many. It was like an indie movie at the time, new director. You're like, oh, this could just be a one trick pony. Like no one's got this kind of talent that could have staying power. And then 25 years later, you have him winning the Oscar, which is the pinnacle of all existence in film, right? For Oppenheimer, and obviously everything before that, he's got some of our favorite movies, Interstellar, Inception, and
I would say too, Prestige. Like I feel like we need to revisit Insomnia, which I definitely saw when it came out.
I rewatched,
but that was the
recently.
Next movie after this. But I mean, he got the Batman trilogy after that, so like it did. This movie was profound in terms of being recognized and appreciated by people, to put him onto, a path to get to make those, what turned out to be that trilogy, which is phenomenal. And then interspersing the Prestige, Inception in between there. We've talked about Interstellar, Dunkirk, Tenet, like you just mentioned, Oppenheimer. So like it's fucking crazy how many awesome movies he's done. And I feel like Insomnia is one I just don't remember enough about it from a macro standpoint to remember if like he clearly delivered on that or third. You said following earlier. But Memento being one that would have been like putting him on a map and on a lot of people's radars, and then following up with Insomnia, and 3 years later is Batman Begins. That's it. So, I mean, it was, everybody saw it. Apparently, it mattered.
Insomnia might be his weakest link, and it's still a really good fucking movie. It's
I'd like to revisit it because I just don't remember enough about it.
No, I don't either, and I was curious. You just said that the Prestige was after Batman Begins. Oh,
yeah,
interesting. I obviously came across the Prestige.
I agree. I would have lost. I would have lost. Missed that question on Jeopardy. I would have got that order out wrong. It definitely felt to me like it was well before, and clearly not.
We always talk about the different runs that directors make.
It's fucking ludicrous.
7-movie run from Memento to Interstellar is unbelievable.
Well, Martin's saying, Insomnia is a weaker link, so maybe it starts at Batman Begins, but even that is ridiculous.
Yeah. Batman Begins, Prestige, Dark Knight, Inception, Dark Knight Rises, Interstellar.
And then what's after Interstellar? Dunkirk?
He did a Quay, so short.
And then Dunkirk, Tenet, Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, Dunkirk might be the one that it's still a really good movie, but it's just not
It's not for me. I watched it once, and I think I'm
Yeah,
good,
not
but-
super Nolan-esque. But
also trying new
run
things.
is yeah,
Not gonna
exactly.
fault anyone for
and
that.
it was it was big for him being British. It's a big day for the Brits. They talk about that. I just watched The Darkest Hour with Gary
Oldman, yeah,
Oldman.
Churchill.
And it's
Man.
yeah, Old Man, and it's it's same subject matter like the day at Dunkirk, big thing for Winston Churchill and everybody. What was I going to say? Yeah, there was only rivaled. That run is rivaled only by
Didn't he?
what's his name, Rob Reiner.
Oh.
And we talked about Misery and Stand by Me and Princess Bride and all those movies and When Harry Met Sally. But yes, I would say Nolan's is pretty much unmatched. Or at least for me, personally, I would say
I have to
that's-
see
that's-
them all.
That's my
all laid out, but it's
Yeah.
gotta be. It's gotta be close to untouchable.
Martin, have you seen Doodlebug?
no. What's that?
His
Tell me
3-minute short about a man trying to squash a bug?
Is it like early or somewhere in the middle?
Yeah. It's 97, so it's before Following.
Okay. Yeah. No, I've not seen it. You guys should watch Following. Is what you need to do. It's
I
good.
feel like I did.
Yeah, it's short.
I feel
good.
like I watched
Nolan.
it. I think on one of your recommendations.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. If you could find it, give that a watch. Be a completist. All things Nolan.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it just like you said, this was the beginning of the Nolan sounds, and yeah, just kind of set you up for what potentially could happen. And again, I think we talk about this every now and then. It's just like different ideas from filmmakers where it's I'm gonna take a story that you could have just told straightforward and it would have been fine, but he's like, let me flip it by throwing it out of order and how I tell it and how it's portrayed and using all of these different elements to contrast it. And it's just like, yeah, that works. Because again, Martin, is this a neo-noir or is this just straight up noir?
No, I mean, yeah, I think you have to put the neo in there if it's anything past 1945 or something. but
Okay.
yeah, I mean, it's got a lot of those elements, right? The mystery, seedy underbelly, the damsel in distress, but not really. The femme fatale, what you would say, you would call her, as she's
Yeah, for sure.
clearly not what she seems. So yeah, it takes a lot of noir elements and just kind of flips them on their heads. The things that you think and it just and tells it in a unique way. So yeah, absolutely, a neo noir, one of the best ones for sure.
As always, we've had more rewarding episodes than this one, although we do get to keep telling the same jokes. Thanks, and go to... Okay, I'm in a hotel room.